What's going on? SEVelocity back here, week 11, I believe. Free agency starting. I'm Ev, he's Sean. Would you like to say anything to the people before we get started?
What's going on, everyone? I gotta apologize for like our late-ish episode. As I told you guys last week, I had to, have some me time, have a very nice vacation down in Florida, and I went to the place where I belong. I felt so much at home in my first encounter with the beautiful, lovely Miami American Airlines Center, Wade County, South Beach. I received many compliments for wearing what I'm gonna call my Miami passport, my Dwayne Wade jersey down there. So I just felt so welcome down there. Everyone, I recommend you go down there to South Beach unless you're a Knicks fan like Ev. Um, the Knicks or a Celtics fan, I should say. Um, anyway, and I also got to say this: my boy Ev and we watched Space Jam 2, and as I said to warn Ev early on, he to be open-minded, objective, I'll be ignorant and kick back and enjoy the movie, and he did. So I gotta say I'm proud of him for that. He's taking strides in the right direction, and I personally enjoyed the movie. Uh, I think he did too, to some extent. I know there are certain parts that he really enjoyed in particular, like LeBron roasting himself, but but nonetheless, he enjoyed the movie. It was a good twist. Like it was completely different from the original Space Jam, which gave it some originality, which I thought was a good thing instead of just being a rerun of the same thing over again. But that's what I got.
Yeah, I thought, okay, so I will say straight up, I don't think it deserves as much hate as it's getting. I think that is a mix of
We
uh,
know why. We know why.
I think it's a mix of LeBron haters, but I also there's a combo of recency bias and oh, the old one always has to be better. The first is always better. So
Yeah,
I think it's a mix of both of those, and at the same time too, people flame it even though it's supposed to be a kids movie, and so there's these lessons to be learned in it that it's supposed to apply to children and family or whatever. I'm not going to try to spoil it too much, but for the amount of hate it's getting, I think it's completely unnecessary. I think that adults should go in there with expectations, and I thought it was still a good movie. And Warner Brothers also did a really good job of making a bunch of references to other parts of their work within it, which I really liked. Um, yeah, it was good.
yeah, but I wasn't surprised by all the hate. Like I knew since way back in 2014 when they announced that LeBron would probably do Space Jam at some point that it would get hate, but it is what it is.
It got hate from me for that.
Yeah. Oh, oh, I know, I know.
So, um, yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. I recommend you go see it. We saw it on HBO because HBO, if you have a subscription, they have it for free on there. So if you got the chance, watch it. It was pretty good, enjoyable. And I think at least everyone should watch it once. So
Hmm.
now moving on to the big stuff here. We got a lot of different topics to talk about here. Free agency just started. We pushed back. We were gonna originally record around 6 o'clock. We decided to push it back to around 8 o'clock because free agency began at 6 o'clock, and we kind of wanted to come in here with some information. I'm gonna have my phone in front of me most of the time throughout this podcast because I want to kind of keep bringing news and reactions from us as we react to new signings, as well as talk about the ones that already happened today. And since there's so many, I'm not going to be able to memorize everything that's happened.
I think we know obviously where to start though. The most important one, Russell Westbrook to the Lakers.
Yes. So Russell Westbrook was traded to the Lakers,
Yep.
and with that, Kyle Kuzma and
About time he's gone.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope are off to Washington. I believe someone else might have been a part of that trade.
I think they get was it 4 picks they gave, or was it three, something like that. I know
Let's
they
see.
gave some picks. Okay.
Um, I will get it up for you in about 3 seconds. Um, Oh, also, if we're talking about the Lakers additions in general, Lakers have added Russell Westbrook so far, Wayne Ellington, Dwight Howard, and Trevor Ariza. So a decent start to the offseason. I mean, they lost KCP, of course. They lost Kyle Kuzma, and they also lost Alex Caruso on a 4-year deal to Chicago Bulls. He will be joining newly signed Alonzo Ball in Chicago along with Zach LaVine. So Chicago is going to be getting a little bit better. Interesting lineups that they got going on there. Uh, but for the full details of this trade, I am so sorry because I can't find it.
I am of the mindset though that the Lakers definitely won in this trade. They gained a lot more than they lost.
Okay, so they traded Russell Westbrook. The Wizards traded Russell Westbrook, a 2024 second round pick, and a 2028 second round pick. So picks that are not going to be relevant for a while, and their second round picks are usually not relevant. Um, in exchange for Kyle Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, and the number 22 pick from this year's draft. Which that's another thing we
Okay.
can cover. The NBA draft just happened. So a few moves there as well. Knicks made a trade. Cade Cunningham, the star of the draft, is now playing for the Pistons. And other notable people, Jalen Suggs is headed to the Magic, and that was the Gonzaga star in their um, tournament run. Should be a good addition. And the interesting one was Evan Mobley, who is I believe, 7'3" center from USC,
Mm.
was drafted number 3 to the Cavs. But it's a little bit interesting because they just paid 100 million to Jared Allen as well. So they might play together. Maybe they'll Jared Allen will play a couple seasons behind Allen. But interesting moves. And then I mean a couple other minor ones. Rockets took Jalen Green. Um, Magic also took Franz Wagner. I mean, there's a few good moves. I'm not going to be able to cover all of them. The Knicks took Kai Jones with a trade from the Hornets, and they also took Keon Johnson. Um, or I'm sorry, he was traded. So for Quentin Grimes, right? Some interesting moves. Nothing too unexpected. Cade Cunningham's supposed to be really good. Didn't do that well in the tournament, but from my understanding, he should be a good addition to the Pistons. Now, let's talk more about free agency because personally, in my opinion, I'm sure yours too. Uh, Outside of the 2 or 3 can't miss prospects, free agency tends to be more important than the draft, at least in the NBA.
Yep.
So, big moves. Kyle Lowry to the Heat.
Yeah, I think I need to talk about this one a bit because I know Ev like he really loved this move. I know I definitely left into his mind when he heard about this move because over the years, I'll be honest, even though generally I don't like to do this because I'm not like Ev, I don't generally like to player hate, but I'll open up and say I've been a Kyle Lowry player hater for the longest solely because he's always folded up in the postseason, despite all the hype around him in the regular season. Um, I always thought he was actually overrated in regular season as well. But but even Ev here, who doesn't hate him, would agree that he's folded up a lot of times. Though I did gain respect for him during their championship run. Like he was inconsistent, but that was better than straight up folding like he did every year. Um, but but now adding him to my Miami Heat, whew, I will say the Heat definitely did need a point guard. Like for real. We saw even in the year we went to the finals, the point guard was essentially were essentially just a combo of two like point forward type players between Jimmy and Bam Adebayo, mostly Jimmy handling the ball and facilitating. But I think that I'm not going to say completely taking them out of their games because they have playmaking abilities as part of their skill sets, but I think the responsibility of bringing the ball down and having to facilitate could sometimes compromise like other stuff that they do, like trying to get themselves open to score. So I think bringing in Kyle Lowry would change that dynamic. But Jimmy, he can play like a true two way wing role, like he's always excelled at. And then Bam, again, he could just focus on playing in the post more. But Lowry is a pretty good passer, and he can hit the three ball. I mean, I'll say one thing for sure. Despite how much I hate Lowry, I much rather have him on the floor handling the ball and making decisions than Tyler Hero. And he'll put up more points than Tyler Hero. He'll take smarter shots than Tyler Hero, even from the three ball. I always thought Tyler Hero, since he came in this league, despite the fact I rooted for him because he helped my guys. I thought he was an overrated 3-point shooter because people were saying, a lot of people at first assumed that he was a better shooter than Duncan Robinson because of the hype and all that, but I never saw a pure sharpshooter from him to begin with. So that's a step up there. And then Kyle Lowry, um, he also is a much better defender than like Tyler Hero is, and Kendrick Nunn, as a matter of fact. I always forget because sometimes Eric Spoelstra rotated in who's starting point guard between those two. So it is a pretty good upgrade. But what I'm concerned about him with now is his age. I know he's an older player. He's not as old as LeBron. I think he's maybe like 2 years behind him, like 34, something like that. I mean, his game never really relied on athleticism, so it may not compromise him too much. And I believe he would probably end up being the third option on the team behind um, Jimmy and Bam. So in a way, I have to see it before I can like make any prediction of how far my Heat will go. But I do think we did get better with him.
So, with that said, the Heat chose to pick up the $19 million option for Dragic, but it's expected to be used for a sign and trade at some point. So, I don't expect him to be on the roster either. He could be there. I doubt it. That's a point I wanted to throw out there. And then also, Duncan Robinson was retained on a 5-year, $90 million deal, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Mm. We
um,
can't lose our
keeping him.
sniper.
Yeah, so that was a good addition. I didn't expect Dragic to stay there. So now the question with Kyle Lowry is DeMar DeRozan next?
Hell no. I do not want him on the team. Oh my god, this is what nauseates me so much. The Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan hype to them, that dynamic backcourt. Sure, they were best friends, they were boys, maybe the best bromance we've seen in the league, but they balled together in the season and folded together in the postseason. Like all of that playing around on the bench, but nothing to show for it on the court. Like people can say, "Oh, because it's just because they were up against LeBron and the Cavs or whatever." I don't care. I don't. If you're stars, you go out there and hoop. But all that playing around and just looking like a bunch of like barely rotation players on the court in the postseason, I don't need any of that drama. When did we see the best version of Kyle Lowry in the postseason? No DeMar DeRozan playing alongside Kawhi. And we know Kawhi is a guy who keeps to himself a lot. So Lowry was locked in on the game. That's what we need. We don't need any distraction. Him playing around with DeRozan on my Heat. Oh,
I
no,
I think DeRozan makes the team better, personally.
no, no.
Um,
We may get a. I will say this: if we get DeRozan, I could see us getting a better regular season record, perhaps. But come postseason, hell no.
which
So
also
stay
brings me
away.
to the point that Jimmy Butler signed a max contract, I believe, over 4 years, 114 million maybe.
I
Um,
love my guy Jimmy Buckets.
So he's going to be staying in Miami. I think that kind of was his home. The second you got there, you kind of knew he was going to be staying there for a while. So that's good. Now they just need DeMar DeRozan and they'll be set. Um,
No, no, your Knicks can take him.
you would have a starting lineup of Kyle Lowry,
Mm-hmm. DeRozan,
DeRozan,
but
Butler,
no.
and Bam, and well, I guess Bam would play center. Who would play power forward? See
So
what?
that's a
See
good
what if you
question. I
just?
don't. I don't even remember who we had playing power forward. Was it Jake? I know we had Jay. No, we didn't have Jay Crowder this year. Oh, Trevor Ariza,
Oh
but
yeah,
he's
Trevor
gone
Ariza's
now.
gone. So maybe you have um, I mean, I can't see Jimmy Butler or DeRozan playing power forward. So I was gonna say, because what if
Absolutely.
you had Duncan Robinson start too? But I don't think that's possible.
Yeah.
So other things, Lonzo Ball signed an $85 million deal with the Pelican, or not the Pelicans, the Bulls, joining Zach LaVine. So that will be a interesting group. Alex Caruso also going there. Um,
Could we perhaps hear some noise from a certain individual saying that Michael Jordan is going to be usurped in Chicago?
who said that?
I mean, I don't think anyone has said it yet, but I think a certain someone, I wouldn't be surprised if they say it on the air. I think we both know who that certain someone would be.
Yeah, well, if that certain someone says that, they should be ripped right off of TV and never returned again. So, I'm trying to think of who else. Laurie Markkinen, I don't believe has a destination yet. He's gotten interest from a few teams. Now, the Bulls are also interested in DeMar DeRozan, as are the Mavericks and the Knicks. The Lakers were interested. They said that he's likely off the table for the Lakers, though. So, Knicks, Heat, Mavericks, or Bulls are one of the four destinations he would probably be heading to. Um, I'm curious if he goes to the Bulls. I'm curious to see how that team performs with Levine, Lonzo, and DeMar DeRozan. I think that that team might make the playoffs as like an 8 seed, but I don't think much further than that. I think they need like one more big piece, but that's not a bad team. They definitely got better. Now the Knicks made a few moves, minor moves. Alec Burks returning $30 million contract, 3 years. Nerlens Noel as well, similar. I think 3 years, 30 million, 32 million. He was a good rim protector for them. Noel probably had arguably one of his best seasons of his career with the Knicks defensively. Averaged a lot of blocks per game, contributed a lot defensively. Burks played well. I think averaged 10 to 15. Did a lot with 3-point shooting for them. They retained Derrick Rose on a 3-year, $43 million contract. That's a big signing. And then the biggest move that they've made so far, which I won't call it a massive move, is they signed Evan Fournier to a 4-year deal. So Fournier is not a star, obviously, but he is a good starter for them and a great shooter to add to the lineup. So a few good moves. Trying to think if there's anything else for the Knicks. They're supposedly pursuing Carmelo Anthony. Not sure if Carmelo Anthony has mutual interest. As well as the Lakers are pursuing Carmelo, which I think he's a little bit more likely to go to. It's just a matter of whether or not Melo wants to get paid his worth, because I don't. He's going to be considered a six man pretty much anywhere he goes. I mean, I think the Lakers though will probably pay him way less than any other team though, just because of the players on their team and how much they have to pay them. So if he wants to win, I expect him to go to the Lakers. If he wants to make more money, maybe the Knicks. Um,
I think we know what decision he's going to make. Oh, we remember what happened the last time he chased money. He was in a similar predicament.
yeah.
He's signing with Denver and then getting traded to the Knicks,
The
or teaming up with his boys.
the problem I have is if he goes to a team chasing a ring, and let's say he does win a ring, or even two rings over the next few years, I don't think when we look back at his legacy, I don't think we're going to measure those rings as very um, noteworthy to his legacy because
No,
he,
we're not.
yeah, it wouldn't
It's
be
going
a
to be
major
just like
contribution.
it would be just like Jason Kidd's ring.
Right. The Heat lost Kelly Olynyk to Detroit on a 3-year, $37 million deal, so your backup center is gone. Not a big deal, but he was a pretty good backup. Um, Definitely on the better side. Mike Connolly re-signed a $72 million deal with the Jazz. Uh, Nothing like robbing a team of money for contributing almost nothing in the playoffs and doing mediocre to good in the season. Um, no disrespect to Mike Conley, but I'll never forget he shot 0 of 8 in their elimination game against Clippers and didn't get any blame. Tim
He
Hardaway.
just came back from an injury.
Well, then don't take 8 threes.
Someone has to shoot.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell should have shot 100 shots that game. Um,
But did we criticize him for shooting too much?
yes. Tim Hardaway Jr. re-signed with the Mavs on a 4-year, $72 million deal. I think that is a super underrated signing. He averaged near 20 points a game,
hmm
and he's
That
still
he
very young.
right now he's the closest thing to a sidekick Luca has.
Yes, so I thought that was a really important signing. TJ McConnell signed a 4-year deal to stay with the Pacers. Pretty good deal, somewhat notable. He's been pretty good with them, and we'll get to see Karis LeVert be healthy, hopefully this year as well. Uh, well, let me note real quick too. Spencer Dinwiddie is a free agent still. He has not signed with a team as of right now. He's gotten interest from a few teams. I know the Knicks being one of them, the Thunder being another. I don't remember the other one, but I know there's quite a few teams interested in him. We already talked about Duncan Robinson being retained. The Suns lost Torrey Craig, which is a notable bench player. He is signing a 2-year deal with the Pacers, 10 million. A little bit less than I expected him to be worth, but new scenery for him, so that Pacers bench gets a little bit deeper. Um, Another big deal, Chris Paul. We'll talk about this one a little bit longer than the rest. Has decided to stay with the Suns. 4 years, 120 million. So he's doubling down on Phoenix to be the place where he chases that ring. Do
And
you agree with that?
retires. Honestly, no. I don't think it was a bad decision though. I don't necessarily think it was a terrible. I don't think it was a terrible decision. Like it is a good situation. Like I'll say, one for get his money's worth, and two, like I mean, it's a young and promising team. Like we can just assume that Aiton and Booker will be better, get better next season. So it is a good situation, but I honestly think, yeah, well, I would have loved for him to have gone to the Sixers.
Oh, okay, I thought
Cause
you were gonna say the Lakers.
no, well, we can get into
Pre
that
Westbrook, yeah.
afterwards. We can get into that afterward, but the Sixers, yeah, because I think we both agree the Sixers could have really needed him, like really needed him. Hell, I think even the Heat could have used him, but I
How,
know that wasn't a realistic situation.
how's his relationship with Doc Rivers? I know it's an interesting one.
I don't think they ever had any beef with each other.
No, I just think that he has a better
Yeah,
relationship with Monty Williams. Um,
yeah, maybe.
I think
And
that.
then
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say now on to the Lakers. While everyone was pondering who was going to be Russell Westbrook or CP3 to the Lakers, I think Chris Paul would have been a more optimal option for the Lakers, but it is what it is.
Let's be real here. I think that they initially wanted Chris Paul, but I think that, even though there's no tampering before free agency, I'm pretty certain that LeBron found out from his friend Chris Paul that he was staying with the Suns pre-free agency. So that so that kind of prompted, I think the Lakers organization to move to acquire Russell Westbrook. So I think they might have wanted CP3 more, which obviously would make sense. But
Yeah,
for the CP3 decision in general, I think it's the best decision he could have made because I feel like if he went to go to a different team, like let's say he went to the Sixers or he went to the Lakers, it would be kind of similar to the Carmelo situation. Obviously, he's doing better than Carmelo is, but it would be straight up ring chase, and I feel like him winning a ring would be a little bit tarnished.
I
If
don't
you,
think that would be the case on the Sixers. I would not be, I love Embiid. I would not be surprised if they win the ring and CP3 is the one that gets finals MVP on the Sixers. Would that
well,
honestly surprise you?
no, but I think that the Sixers have a lot of star power.
I know, but taking into account all the drama that we see with the Sixers, and again CP3 being older, you see the reason why we have that question mark about Melo now, as you're saying that the ring wouldn't carry weight, is because we know that he's not going to get the Finals MVP. Like let's
Right.
say if he's on the Lakers, but like Chris Paul on the Sixers now, if you get the Finals MVP along with the ring, that's where
Well,
it'll elevate your stature.
that's a fair argument, but I also think at the same time too, you have to hope that CP3 gels in perfectly there. And
Yeah,
while it could very easily be similar to the Rockets situation where he does well, but the team is never good enough to reach the finals. So I think he went with the team that he already reached the finals with, and a team that he knows he's going to get credit for if he wins a ring. Um, Whereas if the Lakers, he probably wouldn't get any credit.
I mean, will the BT get? I don't know. It's
He
like
gets
a
credit for
double-edged sword.
losing, so you better get credit for
Yeah,
winning.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, he gets blamed. That we
So
know that. But when they win, I think everyone, a lot of people talk about Devin Booker.
yeah, well, Devin Booker's the reason why they lost the finals. You can debate me all you
Absolutely.
want.
I'm
Any
not. No
I,
debate here.
I'm not talking about
Absolutely
you. I'm
him.
talking about anyone
Yeah.
watching. You can debate me any day of the week about it. I will give you statistics and every reason why Devin Booker lost them the finals
Oh,
versus
and
Chris
I
Paul.
want to point this out. If anyone out there even give an ounce of blame to DeAndre Ayton for that final, just stop watching basketball and start talking about it. I cannot like. You're funny. I don't even know the right word to use, but I'm gonna say you're cruel. I cannot believe that people out there will criticize DeAndre Ayton for not showing up when he was literally the only big man there, and he had to deal with Giannis.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what DeAndre Ayton's supposed to do when his second biggest man is 6'6" and is Jay Crowder, and he has to deal with Giannis, Brooke Lopez, and then Bobby Portis off the bench. Without having any other center outside of Frank Kaminsky come off the bench. He's literally the only big man on that team. So he doesn't deserve any of that blame. He might not have performed to expectations, but understand the people that were around him and the amount of little help he had within the key. uh, I don't think anyone was going to be put into a situation for success there.
He probably had the toughest matchup.
I think the only person who could have maybe thrived in that situation would have been Giannis himself. Um,
Yeah.
but it was an impossible situation for him to be put in. Now, other signings. Jeff Green leaving the Nets for the Denver Nuggets on a 2-year deal. Now, he didn't play a lot on the Nets because he was injured a lot, but he played well when he did play. So I
Hmm.
think this is a really good deal for the Nuggets. I think that it gives Jokic a little bit of help off the bench because he's not going to start. They also re-signed JaMychal Green, their power forward. So a few decent moves from the Nuggets. I think they need more, but we also have to understand Jamal Murray didn't play at all towards the end of the season because he had a torn ACL, or Achilles. So I feel like we kind of got to go easy on what the Nuggets do because we also didn't see them at their full potential. Now,
I think now's the perfect time for something I was saving for you. I regularly watch First Take and Undisputed, and in particular today, First Take. Heard an interesting question that I think would be good to be brought up here on SEVelocity. And just so you know, Ev knows to spice it up a bit, the regular First Take crew wasn't there. Like Molly, Stephen A, and Max, they were on vacation,
wait,
so
before
they
you
had some.
continue, I just want you all to know that he's been saving this for the show itself, so I have no idea what he's about to tell me.
Yeah, I don't remember who two of I don't remember who the name of the moderator or one of the temporary hosts today, but the other one though was our friend as best friend Kendrick Perkins, and the question that was brought up was who is the face of the NBA right here right now, and Kendrick Perkins' answer was the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo. And hold on, before you say anything, Ev, you know this is you get a kick out of this because as I told you, the host and the moderator they were guests today too, filling in for Molly and Max. The other host it was Dominique Foxworth, yes, and I forgot who the moderator was. They had to take a pause and call Perk out and play the sound bite of him calling Giannis Robin. Like they were like, Perk, I'm sorry to do this to you, but weren't you the same guy who called Giannis Robin?
That man gets paid millions of dollars to be a clown on television.
Yeah, Robin is the face of the league.
Makes no sense. I wonder what Batman is. He must be the face of all sports.
He said his defense was, "I said it at the time because of the regular season and those big games. As in the closing moments, Chris Middleton was a Batman in those situations."
Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop it.
man.
Every single person who watches basketball with the exception of Kendrick the Clown Perkins, said straight up, or no, straight up, that Giannis is the face of that team. And I don't mind him being called the face of the NBA because I think that, um, him being in a small market Milwaukee, he was still, widely recognized going before the finals and the playoffs. But now that he won the finals, he's getting a lot more attention, and people are, there's all these clips of Giannis and all the comments that he's making.
Yeah,
Now he's becoming the most liked guy in the NBA. So I could see him being the face of the NBA. I think that's reasonable, but
I know you just don't want to hear it from him, right?
that is the last guy I want to hear that from.
Yeah, but in terms of my opinion on it, I I disagree. We all know if you say name a player in the NBA right now, majority of people around the world, number one, they're gonna say LeBron James. Number two, maybe Steph Curry or Kevin Durant.
I will say he is the face of the NBA today. I don't I don't know about overall, but today he is. So like he's by far getting the most attention out of any player as of right now. But when the regular season starts next year, and you got guys like LeBron who are going to be back healthy, and you got Steph dropping 40 in the middle of the regular season, then that argument's going to be much different. Because right now we're in a recency bias period where Steph was eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, LeBron was eliminated in the play-in, and he was injured. So and then you had KD dropping 50, but he got eliminated. So you had only Giannis left out of like the superstar tiers. Because I don't think Devin Booker's there yet, and I don't think Chris
Yeah.
Paul is necessarily a superstar. Um,
I still don't think he is he faced right now because if you think about it, even though LeBron was eliminated in the first round, he was still talking about 24/7, especially on Undisputed for reasons we know why. even even when he was sitting at home relaxing, even prior to the NBA Finals, a certain someone, who brought up Georgetown and all of that. LeBron, honestly, I don't. I think LeBron's going to be the face of the league until he retires. And it's not like obviously not about like his level of play. Like he's not going to when it comes to retirement point, he's obviously not going to be the best player in the league
it's
at
just
that
the
point.
amount of help
But
he's able to
it's just
get.
no, it's just a celebrity status, as in like the most marketed person in the league. That's what the face of the league is. Not like can we honestly like let's say Tim look at Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan, many people can make arguments for had spent year that's the best player in basketball. I don't think anyone will say Tim Duncan was ever the face of basketball.
Well, I think the problem is we can make any debate of who's the best player in the NBA, but
Yeah,
LeBron solely off his name and his history, it will
yeah,
probably always be the face of the NBA till he retires.
yeah. That's just how it goes. Like
So like
before him, it was Kobe.
he can probably go and put up 15 a game this season, and I'm not saying he's going to, and then get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs fully healthy, and we'll probably still talk about him the most.
Yeah,
So I definitely understand the argument for LeBron. I think the only three people that are well, I guess you can make an argument for four different people. The four people I think you could put into the argument are LeBron, KD. The problem is KD's a bit quiet. Giannis, and then Steph Curry.
yeah,
Those are the four people I think you can put in the conversation. Everyone else I think has no right to be a part of the conversation. So
yeah. I honestly think though that the second person I would honestly put Steph Curry. I think because especially considering what we went through in high school, many people thought he had pulled the title from LeBron for a bit. I've never seen another player like marketed in LeBron's era like Steph Curry was.
yeah, and I think in 5 years down the line, assuming LeBron's retired in 5 years, we don't know.
Yeah,
He could
yeah,
probably play until he's 50 if he wanted. I would hope that the two faces of the NBA and Steph will probably be past his prime in 5 years. We don't
yeah.
know. Um, but I would assume the two players that would be the face of the NBA in 5 years would probably be Giannis and Luca because
I think it's going to be Luca,
because
honestly.
Luca's only he's still climbing the peak for his prime. Giannis, we can make an argument that he's at his prime, but he's also still in his prime ages for the next couple of years, so he could get better. But right now, those two are probably the big up and comers that are going to be the face.
Uh, I I got another question for your topic that I heard like them debating on the shows, which is a pretty obvious one. I've even heard friends of mine debating it. Who do you think has more expectations going into the postseason or even just the whole picture next year? The Nets or the Lakers?
The Lakers. Um,
Well, all right. Actually, let me make it two questions. Who do you think actually has the most pressure on them right now, and who do you think should have the most pressure on them?
I
If
think
if you have two different answers, if you do,
I think the Lakers will have the most pressure on them because
yeah,
they. I mean, and that's not even just their roster; it's straight up LeBron. So
yeah,
like LeBron being injured or hobbled for most of the season, and now you added Russell Westbrook, and you're supposed to be healthy next year. I think the expectations are going to be through the roof after a disappointing season. Because similar to when the Lakers didn't make the playoffs his first year, LeBron was there. The expectations were through the roof the next year to like figure it out and step it up. So now I think that there's this big magnifying glass over the Lakers that everyone's going to be eyes are on them. Whereas the Nets, they had a similar excuse. They were hobbled too, but they have so many stars that I, you're,
in their primes.
yeah, that you're almost expected to be there. But so I don't think people will be putting pressure on them. I think they just already wrote them into the finals next year in a sense, or close to it.
Yeah. No, my take on it is this with the Lakers. Obviously, like LeBron, like just the name LeBron James is going to come with expectations. But I think the reason why there's going to be extra expectation on the Lakers is because I feel like Russell Westbrook's going to be looked at on a magnifying glass now.
Yeah, and
I think that's really the main deal.
to be honest with you, I mean, that's kind of just the way it is. Because me personally, my eyes are very close on Russell Westbrook because
Yeah,
I we know him to be very inefficient at times, despite how good he is. And LeBron's one of those people that kind of preaches efficiency. He might score 25, he might score 35, but the big thing is usually LeBron's always efficient. So
yeah.
I'm curious to see if LeBron's efficiency transcends to Russell Westbrook when he comes to LA. Like if that's something that LeBron is going to, um, speak up about to Westbrook and kind of improve Westbrook's game to a point of him being efficient as well as a star player. Or if Westbrook's going to just drop off and kind of get worse.
I honestly think this is the first time Russell Westbrook is in a situation where he has a teammate who will demand the ball from him. Because that's the thing. I think that's something Kevin Durant used to get criticized about back in OKC. Not so much because we know Westbrook took all the heat back there, but people would say Kevin Durant. He seems kind of like really um docile, tentative. Um, like they were saying that he needed to like control Westbrook. Like we see them at the end of the game, he would never like really demand a ball from him. So now that Westbrook is playing with LeBron, we know LeBron will do that. And I think really the biggest help Westbrook's going to give LeBron is obviously bringing the ball down the floor. He's going to be able to push a fast break between him and Anthony Davis. LeBron won't have to run around as much. That's the upside. But I feel like when it comes to the late in games and closing it, I think we're going to see LeBron dominate the ball like usual.
And I think the when you compare the Nets versus the Lakers, I mean the Nets are still better in my opinion. I mean,
Hmm.
I personally would probably take Kyrie over Westbrook.
Right now, definitely.
I would take. You're gonna call me.
No, go ahead. I don't care.
I would take KD over LeBron right now. Just because KD's closer to his prime than LeBron is, and that's not a diss to LeBron. It's just more age, than
Yeah,
anything.
let me just say this for the audience. Everyone, Evan is literally just saying right now because he's looking at LeBron's age and where he is in his career. Evan,
Right.
in their respective primes, Evan has LeBron over KD.
Yeah. So, and then AD versus Harden. It's hard to compare because they're different positions, but
I think that's an even matchup
yeah,
almost.
it's close because they both make arguments at times
Yeah,
throughout the season and the playoffs where they're top five, and then they both make arguments throughout the season where they're not top five. They both have
it
streaks
was
where they
this
don't
year for
show up.
AD.
Well, like either way, like I think they're. I won't call them both the most inconsistent out of the three on their teams, but I think that their peak and can differ a lot from sometimes the way they play. Like James Harden has games where he just doesn't show up. AD, I won't say he doesn't show up, but he looks different
He
than his prime or his peak sometimes when he's on the floor. It's not necessarily not showing up, but it's not his best basketball.
I think it's more so with AD. I really think it's a matter of him just like laying off the throttle. Because like even in his best year that we see him putting up the monster numbers in New Orleans, the one criticism that always got is people would see that late in games, like when it comes closing time, it's like he doesn't dominate the ball as much. He's not as active offensively, like he's not as assertive towards the end.
Right.
But
Uh,
but he's really active early on.
and I'm
But but with the Lakers though. I think he kind of flipped it. Like in a way, earlier in the games, he plays a more reserved role. Because if anything, he's been acting at the Lakers closer.
yeah. Um, I think it's weird because we talked about Westbrook and not being on a team where someone demands the ball from him. But I would make the argument that James Harden did that a lot with him in Houston. Like James Harden was very ball demanding. Like there was a few times where he was yelling at Westbrook to give him the ball. So I would make that
That is
argument.
true.
But at the same time, with LeBron preaching efficiency, I think there's easily a scenario where LeBron chooses to feed Westbrook a lot to the point where we won't see triple double Westbrook like where he averages a triple double a game, but I could see Westbrook being fed the ball a lot to score because he might be. I don't think he'll be the most primary scorer. I think that should be AD, but I could see LeBron feeding Westbrook a lot to the point where he's getting 30 a game because I think LeBron's one of the few people in the NBA that have faith in him to maintain that status from he did a couple years ago.
I think Westbrook, like he's clearly like his skills are just not up to par what it was back then.
No, they're
Like
not.
it literally ever since he got that knee surgery, I
Yeah,
think after 2017. Because we could like I always bring up this picture to tell you the story. Now the fact that now we're saying that Russell Westbrook is a liability at the free throw line. Back in his prime at OKC, he was a great free throw shooter. He was a consistent 80 something percent along with KD at the free throw line.
but
Always.
I'll make this argument. If there was any person that could get the best out of Russell Westbrook at his age right now, it's the man that's going to be playing alongside him, LeBron, that could do it. So I think that at his age, he
That
can.
needs a lot coming from you, honestly.
I think that he can get the best out of Westbrook right now.
Believe it or not, you have more faith in LeBron in on that stance than I do.
It's I think it's a sense of because like LeBron talks about it all the time. He's talks about how he would much rather be the player he is now than he was in Miami, as in not necessarily the athleticism, but the amount of IQ that he has on the floor. Like he's able to
Yeah.
kind of call out everything that's going on. So I think that if he's able to, like, I think that's something that Westbrook did well, but I don't think nearly as well as LeBron does right now. So I think that's
Yeah.
something that LeBron can kind of teach to Westbrook, or at least help him with, so that Westbrook can see different things along the floor. Because he's
I
never really
also
had some. You got to keep in mind he's never
yeah.
really had someone that was really above him to do that. Now he has someone that's kind
Yeah.
of better than him to tell him what to do in a sense.
I also think this will be interesting. It's something I don't think anyone's talked about. Um, we're looking back at OKC. I honestly think there's a point where Russell Westbrook and Steven Adams, like we generally said Russell Westbrook didn't really make teammates better, but I think the one exception was Steven Adams, that 1-2 punch. I think for a while that was the best pick and roll I saw in the league.
Yeah,
But now he's playing with a big Anthony Davis who's way more athletic than Adams and just a way better scorer off the ball. And then he who can run out on in transition with him. I think I think if they do a lot of pick and rolls there, I think that's where the Lakers can strive. When LeBron's sitting down, a 1-2 punch with Westbrook and AD will be interesting.
they but the point still holds. They need a shooter
Yeah.
because
Oh yeah, definitely.
they need like a Seth Curry, a Buddy Hield, something along
Yeah.
those lines.
Yeah. They need the floor spacing for sure.
Because now they lost KCP too, which is probably one of your better shooters, I would say.
And I will also say this, like I don't know. I honestly just don't know understand what was up with AD like this season because the previous season, like obviously his stats were less than New Orleans because the lower usage rate,
Right.
but he was still playing like a top five caliber at that point, rolling into the postseason. I don't know why you fell off, but when AD is hitting his jump shots, even if it's just so deep mid range shots, he allows a lot of floor spacing for them. The AD needs to be start hitting his shots again.
Yeah. And Evan Fournier was another one of those players that I think could have went really well on the Lakers, but
Yeah.
with the contract he signed with the Knicks, 78 million, there was clearly no way they were going to be able to afford him. So now you got
Mhm.
guys like Ariza, Dwight Howard coming to that team, but they still lack shooting.
Mhm.
I hope that because they said they're still trying to get Buddy Hield, but I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off. Hopefully they can because they need him. I'm just worried that it's going to cost them a lot too.
Now, as for the Nets, I'm gonna tell you, I think they should be the ones to get expectations. I have most of the expectations. Now, the reason why I'm a bit emotional about this is it's probably not what you're thinking. It has nothing to do with the whole LeBron KD thing. It's because of what I had to listen to in a PlayStation party with my friends who are known LeBron haters for the longest. And they say, oh, even before the Westbrook sign happened, they said, oh, you see the Lakers, y'all better win it all next year. All expectations on you. And someone's like, what about the Nets? They just dodged the question.
Yeah.
I'm like, the Nets, they have the best roster. They're the ones they should win. Like, if they don't win a championship, their whole moves was a complete bust.
I think that a lot of people are looking at the Nets as okay, they didn't have James Harden for a majority of the series, and they didn't have Kyrie for a majority of the series, and they almost made the finals. So
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are perceiving it as those guys are healthy, they're clearly going to make the finals. So
and
I
they
feel like
better.
they don't look at it as expectations because they expect them to already be there. It's not just a straight up expectation of like, okay, maybe they'll get there. It's like they're gonna get there.
Yeah, and another thing, they better play in the games in the season. Kyrie, none of this nonsense with the media. Play the games, do your jobs.
By the way, I have a few free agent updates. Garrett Temple has agreed to a deal with the Pelicans. Cody Zeller has agreed to a 1 year deal with the Portland Trailblazers, so that'll replace Zach Collins.
Mhm.
And then Daniel Dice from Boston signed with the Houston Rockets, which will probably be the backup center to Christian Wood, assuming that they keep him. Nothing else, though, nothing really big. Kawhi Leonard, obviously, free agent. He declined his option, but he's expected to re-sign with the Clippers. But every time I hear expected, they don't usually do that. So we'll see.
Him and Uncle Dennis are in the lab.
Yeah. Oh, and good news for you. You get more defense on Miami. PJ Tucker just signed a 2 year deal with Miami Heat.
I we do, I don't want him. We don't need him.
Two
We need
years,
a real
15
big
million.
man. We need a real big man. Like honestly, I would take Kristaps on the Heat right now.
Well, you're not getting Kristaps. And
Kristaps he's unhappy with the Mavs. He's
and
jealous of
Knicks
Luca.
and Knicks player Reggie Bullock signed with the Mavericks. 3 year deal. So PJ Tucker, though, that's pretty interesting. Lockdown. Woo!
Oh my god, defense was not a problem. It was a lack of size.
So I found your starting power forward.
I don't want to hear it. Oh wait, no, Precious Achua.
So, well, that's gonna be really funny. Is he gonna be the one that guards Giannis if they make the playoffs against each other?
Yeah.
Good luck. Great defense, but he's got like a foot on him.
Oh my god.
um,
I
no
hate
other
this so
news.
much.
Oh, speaking of hating this so much, we have one more topic we could talk about. The 76ers still want 4 first round picks for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, hold on. You know why they wanted back four? Because they're saying all of those years where we tanked the pull players, trust the process in the draft, and we wasted it on Simmons. We want our picks back.
We want a refund.
Oh man, I was so glad though. I think they were trying to work out the deal to do a straight up between Simmons and taking in Andrew Wiggins. I think at some point that was a discussion. I'm so glad that didn't happen. So glad that didn't happen.
No, they wanted Wiggins, three first round picks, and James Wiseman for Ben Simmons.
Oh gosh, still this it still would not. Just I think the Warriors would have won that.
Oh, what?
Yeah, you heard me loud and clear. The Warriors would have won that because I'm thinking of this. Why would you? First of all, you pull in Wiseman. You have Embiid. I'm not even gonna say a word about Wiggins. But now I'm gonna say the Warriors with Ben Simmons handling the ball and the two best shooters in NBA history on the wings. Are you kidding me? That first of all, Simmons would have won that in the sense that that's the best situation he could ever be in. Steph, we know how lethal he is off the ball. You had those two lethal shooters with a guy like Ben Simmons.
Yeah, but they want a player that's going to contribute, and Ben Simmons doesn't do that.
Yeah, yeah, simple. Steph doesn't have to handle the ball as much. He can run around off the ball, whip it to him. It don't matter. He got 300 hands in their faces. They'll still hit the shots.
Your organization's a joke for thinking that they're going to get four first round picks for Ben Simmons.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. I'm still holding my point. The Warriors, they would have won that trade if they
Best
got Ben Simmons.
best case scenario, Miami Heat trade four first round picks for Ben Simmons.
Next topic, please.
Well, I to be honest with you, I don't think we have any more free agency signings to talk about. You can talk about Kawhi Leonard if you want, where we think he's going
Yes,
to go.
that's much better. Let's have a sensible conversation.
Well, okay. So we'll go to fantasy land with the New York Knicks real quick because Stephen A. Smith said today that, or the other day, that if Damian Lillard was to request a trade from Portland, his number one destination would be the Knicks solely because he's able to attract more talent to a city like New York versus Portland. I think that's a reasonable justification. I don't know how true that is though. And he said he doesn't want out of Portland yet, but he could in the future. Judging by Portland letting go of Zach Collins and their replacement being Cody Zeller, and I'm pretty sure they're losing Nurkic, pretty sure there's a good chance that Damian Lillard's going to want out of there. Unless the only thing I could see Damian Lillard wanting to stay at is if Kawhi Leonard chooses to sign with Portland, and I don't think that's going to happen. So if he does get traded to the Knicks, though, I'm assuming that we're going to lose either. We're probably going to lose RJ Barrett. We'll probably lose Julius Randle, and then maybe Mitchell Robinson and like Kevin Knox or something, and a couple first round picks. So we'll lose half our lineup. I would say it's worth it if you're able to reel in another star like Kawhi Leonard. So if you can get Kawhi Leonard and Damian Lillard, that is another super team. Potentially. I mean, you need probably one more big piece, but then you have, like you have Kawhi Leonard, Damian Lillard on one team, and then you'd have KD, Harden, and Kyrie, and then you'd have Westbrook, AD, and LeBron, and then you could then you'll have Steph and Clay too. I'll kind of throw in there. I don't know where I kind of put them yet, and at the very bottom of that super team list, we could put Chris Middleton and Robin. Um,
Oh man,
so
it's funny. This is what makes Knicks fans so entertaining. Like every year, this just does not get old. What is
what
what is
having faith and then having
maybe
it getting crushed
maybe
instantly.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe hold on. As far as I can remember, because you've been following basketball longer than me. 2010, we might get LeBron James. LeBron came in for the meeting. The decision, we'll get him. We're gonna get Wade. We're gonna get Bosh.
hmm
I'm taking my talents to South Beach.
That broke my heart.
Did
I watched that live as a kid.
did manage to get Melo, which was a great pick for them, but I felt bad for Melo because the Knicks, all the drama, firing coaches every year. Then let's fast forward a bit. What other things happen? Oh yeah, when you guys got oh man, it's hilarious when you guys got J.R. Smith. The hype around him in New York City. First of all, JR not even being able to play like half a season because he kept getting suspended for
Okay,
doing something stupid.
first off, watching the Knicks get Amari Stoudemire really made me really happy as a kid. That was the first big move when I
Oh
started
yeah,
watching basketball. That was,
that is true. Yeah, I remember that. I liked Amari then.
but let me tell you, my best day as a Knicks fan was going to sleep every night, checking ESPN on my phone, thinking, "Oh my gosh, the Knicks might actually get Carmelo. Like, I hope to God this happens." And then waking up and seeing that Carmelo and Chauncey Billups were traded to the Knicks. It was, I kid you not, it was the best day of my life when it came to basketball because it was it was finally a representation that, oh my gosh, we might actually have hope to not suck. And now it's been 10 more years of waiting. So
Wait, hold up. I'm still going down the timeline. I brought a JR, and how could I forget the bad man, Linsanity?
oh my god.
The month when I had to hear Knicks fan for oh no, I gotta point this out. You were probably saying this to mess with me. I'm not sure, but this was back when we used to have our lunchtime battles. I believe one time you told me that that J.R. Smith outplayed Dwayne Wade on the head to head. I'm
Um,
pretty sure you said that before, but probably to mess with me.
I think it would have been the mess with you because Dwayne
Yeah.
Wade was still one of my favorite players, even though I didn't like the Heat. Um,
Okay, but yeah, but of course, Linsanity that month, elite point guard, great.
there was no better feeling than those prime Knicks days in the playoffs, Knicks versus the Heat and the Big Three. Knew we were going to get crushed, and watching Amari Stoudemire punch the fire extinguisher case and getting glass all over his hands, and knowing that we were going to get eliminated in 4 games.
Oh, really? You know what I loved even more? Watching Ray Allen hit a jump spin and fade away from deep and end and end the series with you
10
guys
out of
when you
10.
play the Celtics.
10 out of 10. Um,
Let's see. No, I got it. I'm sorry, I got to keep going. No more. Oh, I recall. Oh, Kevin Durant. Yes, no. A little bit before that, when LeBron went back to the Cavs. Yeah, he left the Heat. I heard so many Knicks fans say it's over now that the Heat are gone. The Knicks are going to are the favorite to go to the finals. All of that, and what happened? The Cavs, the LeBron went to the Cavs, and we took Jr. and Iman Shumpert. That
I
was hilarious. And what happened after that?
before you talk
Ah,
about the Kevin Durant one, remember that the same year with the whole Kevin Durant spiel,
yeah.
we all had high hopes with the highest odds to land Zion Williamson, and then had that crushed too. So because we were supposed to get the number 1 pick in the lottery, and then we didn't. So
Mhm.
woo, R.J. Barrett.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a little bit later down the line, but yeah, Kevin Durant. I remember this year before he became a free agent too. You told me, oh, there's a good chance the Knicks could get him. Like I think that they get him. And funny too, in the Olympics after the NBA Final went and stuff in the Olympics, Melo was trying to recruit KD every day. Like we saw him constantly whispering in KD's ears, talking to him. But little did he know, Draymond was doing the same thing. KD got pulled to the
oh
Warriors.
my gosh. Oh, and then after that, the second time we tried to get KD, and New York was the proposed number 1 landing spot for sure, without a doubt. He was going to New York, and then our wonderful owner says, "We're not going to offer him the max. We're going to offer him less than the max because he tore his Achilles." And then he goes, "Screw you! I didn't want to go to New York anyway. I wanted to go to Brooklyn." So, and then he goes straight to Brooklyn. And Kyrie does the exact same thing. We don't get the first pick in the draft. We get the third pick, and we take R.J. Barrett.
I'm not gonna lie. I s- I know many say that they think Kevin Durant was that close to picking the Knicks. I mean, he went on first take and laughed, and it was like, "What made you guys think I was picking the Knicks?" I don't know if he would just, try to throw shade right there. Me personally, I don't think he was necessarily favoring the Knicks that much over the Nets. I think he was gonna go wherever Kyrie wanted to go. I could see Kyrie being, Kyrie's the real miserable one who'd like to leap on these things. So I feel like he's like, wherever my boy goes, I'll back him up. I think that's more so what happened.
Yeah.
But but wait, we forgot one more thing with the Knicks. Do you remember what? Oh man, draft. I don't remember what year it was. I think it might have been 2015 draft with Kristaps Porzingis. First, you guys booed him on draft night, and then midway through the season, when you realize he was good, Porzingis.
Yeah.
But and then a couple years later, he says, "Yeah, screw you to the Knicks," and then you guys trade him.
You know what? That one doesn't sting as much because he has been performing below expectations since. Everyone thought he would get better, and he's been
Yeah,
probably about the same level as he was on the Knicks.
yeah. Oh, I remember this one too. Now this is hilarious. When I always say, "Well, I can't say Knicks fans because you make us think that you have a championship squad every year." At the end of the 2016 finals, when you guys, who did you sign? You signed Derrick Rose, Courtney Lee, all those guys. I remember vividly listening to you tell me there's gonna be a bomb squad in the Eastern
Well,
Conference,
that was supposed to
and
be
I'm pretty
Carmelo
sure
still on the team, right?
yeah, he was, and I'm pretty sure y'all didn't even make the playoffs.
I blame that on Phil Jackson.
No, wait, was he coaching the Knicks at the time?
I want to say he was, but either way, we that team was not championship worthy, but I think that team was at least playoff worthy under the
Clearly
proper
not.
coaching.
Nah, I don't want to hear any
Hey,
of that. You had a superstar in
we
Melo
had to we had to
in the
run the
weak
triangle. We had
in the weak Eastern Conference at that time. That's when the East was at its lowest point.
you still had LeBron in there.
All at the very top. Obviously, the Cavs were at the very top. But look, we had teams like the Wizards making the playoffs. Come on.
Yes, we suck. Thank you for the reminder.
And I like how you tried to use LeBron as an excuse. We know damn well LeBron was going to be at the very top. Like, you don't even need to worry about that.
You know what? And after all of that, I will take all of that sadness and depression over Ben Simmons.
Well, you know what? I'll still, despite all the depression I've dealt with the Sixers, I still think like if Kawhi didn't shoot a dagger in my heart, the Sixers would have been in the NBA Finals that year. But despite all of that, I still take where the Sixers are at because here's the difference. You see, the Sixers, while they are, we recognize how talented they are as a team. And even I've said they folded in the postseason. You obviously always said they folded, but you've recognized that they have the roster and the players with the skills and abilities to be a title contending team, but it's a lack of execution in the moment. I would think I would actually think that than saying that we're throwing in pieces of players from a junkyard and acting like each of them are like top five in their position, acting like
Hey,
they're the 2017 Golden State Warriors just to not make the playoffs at all.
you're laughing now. You're laughing now, but wait, in 2 years you're not gonna have Embiid. You're not gonna have Seth Curry. Ben Simmons should be gone this year. We hope. You're gonna have no one on that team after this whole process, and we're gonna be right back to square one.
But guess what? Guess what? Also going to be at the time, I'm going to be graduated from school and not in Philly anymore. Plus, they were never my number one team. My number one team was still always the Heat. And but unlike you, your team is the Knicks. And this is one more thing I get to brag about. Even after LeBron left the Heat, now this is a huge credit to Eric Spoelstra. While they had no big names, I mean, for a bit, Hassan was the best player on the team. The Heat only missed the playoff once without LeBron, without anyone there. But with Melo still there on the Knicks, the Knicks have missed the playoffs multiple times. So that's why I always felt good about the Heat. We're still better than the Knicks.
Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra are gonna retire eventually, and I cannot wait.
Well, guess what? Eric Spoelstra, he's fairly young. Like, he's younger than Doc Rivers, I'm pretty sure. He's going to be around
Yes.
for a while.
Are you done?
Yeah, I had to. Sorry, I had to. I had to give everyone the context. Let them know the story.
The Knicks fans will always have hope that we're gonna be good one day.
Oh man, that's what makes you toxic.
We'll get there. Trust the 60-year process. Um, Without further ado, I got nothing to add.
Oh, I got one more thing to add. How about you try not getting security? Why don't you get security to start frisking your players?
Yeah, why don't we start escorting our players out of the team too, instead of just the legends?
Oh, and don't forget your diehard fans.
Yep, I have nothing else to add.
Yep. All right, everyone. Thanks for again for joining us at SEVelocity. A lot of stuff to talk about today. Even though basketball season's over, there's still tons of moves and stuff happening in the basketball world. So you'll still see us here weekly. Usual like, comment, and subscribe. We'll keep trying to find interesting topics to get through the off season. And I promise you guys this is a little side note. I will never ever ever go to a Knicks game at Madison Square Garden because I fear for my life. If I go to one of those games, there's a chance that velocity will be over because I will not be able to resist antagonizing Knicks fans there and wearing my Miami Heat gear there. And yeah, I think somebody might make an attempt on my life. So I think I'd be safest staying away from the garden. Ev?
You probably won't see me there because I don't like to pay $400 for mediocrity. So until then, you all have a great week. Hopefully, by the time we are here next week, we have a Kawhi Leonard signing, whether it be with the Clippers or another team. It's not going to be the Knicks, probably. I'm
Right.
just going to shoot down my hopes now because it always ends up that way anyway. So back to building our team through the draft for the next 25 years and going from there. Have a good rest of your week, and we will see you next time.